We heard the reports. Ross Dellinger kind of let out that at Big 12 Media Days, there was some rumblings and talk behind the scenes, maybe that Florida State and Clemson and maybe some others maybe eyeing going to the Big 12, not the Big 10 or the SEC, possibly the Big 12. Pete, what have you heard on that, and do you think there's any validity to it?
So it's all speculation at this point, and Ross kind of came back and made it really clear it was speculation. But what I will say, guys, is you have Brett Yormark, right, the Big 12 commissioner, and Brett Yormark comes from the business side of sports, right? He didn't work his way up in a college athletic department. He wasn't the marketing director at your low tier Power 4 for like a decade who worked his way up. No, this guy was cutting like big time deals in New York City in the sports world, and then he got the Big 12 job, and he has really been pushing the ball forward. And like any businessman, right, he's trying to get some big time deals. So he, the WWE is a big time sponsor now. I think was it Nelly who did the halftime show for the Big 12 title game this past year. And then on top of that, now like he's thinking about selling these TV rights deals separately. So like the football and basketball packages would be separate. They might name it the All-State 12. So Brett Yormark isn't messing around, and he made it really clear at Big 12 Media Days that he wants to continue expanding. So I think what you have here is the Big 12 is kind of bullying the ACC, and the ACC is. I got a story up on 3 about it right now. The ACC is struggling, man. The two of the more prominent membership schools right now, Clemson and Florida State, are both entrenched in a legal battle right now that neither want to lose. Clemson filed an appeal today after a court loss. So that's kind of where we're at. If Clemson and Florida State ever get out, and maybe it doesn't make sense for the Big 10 and the SEC, the Big 12 is going to be waiting with some big open arms.
Yeah, and Pete, a couple things. One, it seems like with this conference realignment, every time we've heard a whisper or a rumbling or a quote-unquote unsubstantiated rumor, it has always turned into something. It has come to fruition. We heard rumblings about maybe Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 to go to the SEC. It gets announced at SEC Media Days a couple years ago. We hear whispers, the Pac-12 may be collapsing. They may be splitting their teams, or the teams may be leaving and going to other conferences, and it ends up happening. We hear whispers, you could have Cal and Stanford possibly going to the ACC. It ends up happening. At what point is you got to start trusting the whispers of this of actually coming to fruition? Because it seems like every time, man, eventually it does come to fruition in some shape or fashion.
Yeah, man, the whispers are a dangerous game, but there's always some truth in the whispers, as history has proven.
Oh, God, there's always some truth in the whispers. That's a great name for a song. Can we write that down? That's a great name for a song.
I wrote it down.
Keep going, Pete. Sorry.
I think the one interesting thing here is I kind of got to it. The ACC is they're not reeling, but they're not reeling, right? The Big 10 and the SEC are going to get substantially more money from this new college football playoff deal. I think it's like a $7 to $8 million difference. And on top of that, this deal doesn't end till 2036. So, I'll speculate with you. I think if they were to go anywhere, right, Clemson and Florida State, and it's not the Big 12 and the SEC, the Big 10 or the SEC, the Big 12 makes so much sense. Yeah. And Brett Yormark made some really interesting comments. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he's like, we are officially the third best, one of the 3 best conferences in the country, and we want to be number 1 in America.
There's only 4.
Yeah, hey, it's the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
Messing around.
Hey, you know what it reminds me of, David? It reminds me of the saying, if there's 3 people walking in the woods, and talking about with the Big 12 and the ACC, there's 2 people walking the woods and you run into a grizzly bear.
Last.
You don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than the other person.
True that.
I feel like that's what the Big 12's doing in the ACC.
Well, the Big 12 is bullying the ACC. That's verbatim what you said. I can't believe that's a statement we're talking about. Remember, it was only 3 summers ago. We were all together in Birmingham when the news announced Texas, Oklahoma leaving the Big 12, and we said, they can't survive as a conference.
Dead.
Now look at them. Been putting in work. Since then, we've already lost one.
Yeah.
We've lost the Pac-12.
It's like the girl that broke up with you, so all of a sudden, instead of pouting about it,
hey,
you now got a 6-pack.
You got in the gym,
making
buddy.
More money. Yeah.
Pete, look, the entire college football world is excited to see what Alabama's going to look like post Nick Saban. I know that you guys sat down with Jalen Milroe. He was talking about the offense not going to be vanilla, talking about how the offseason has gone since Nick Saban has retired. What can you tell us about that conversation?
I think my biggest takeaway was Jalen Milroe had that opportunity to leave Alabama, right? The transfer portal opens when Saban leaves, and he was pretty blunt and honest with me of how he thinks Alabama's better because that happened, right? Obviously, you don't want to lose the GOAT, Nick Saban, but at the same time, it kind of gives these players the opportunity to leave on their own terms, bring in a new coach. And he stayed. He really likes this new offense. And beyond that, too, he's pretty blunt. And he said, I think everyone who's here right now is kind of what we need to win a national championship. And it was almost a healthy process that the Tide went through this offseason.
Yeah, no doubt. How could you not like playing for Kalen DeBoer?
Yeah, I know. It's just, and Alabama's got some pretty good players, too. It's like there's only a few places you can go outside of Bama, you're going to get like better players.
Yeah, I agree. Pete, we got a couple questionnaires from the chat, but I want to ask you something. Has anything changed with the current status of the lawsuit from Florida State and Clemson against the ACC?
So, big, broad strokes here, right? So, like the Florida State got a pretty big win today where the ACC now has to hand over all its ESPN contracts over in the next 7 days. And some stuff still needs to be sorted out there, like how much they can be. It doesn't sound like we'll ever get to see them, but the lawyers will be able to see them. And like that's been something the ACC and ESPN have been fighting against. So that's big for Florida State. Guys, like at the end of the day, though, it's like things move like glacially sometimes in this court system. Like I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like, oh, it's all coming to a big conclusion. Like it's not. Like it's just your typical ongoing court battle.
Yeah.
Got you. All right, Pete, we're going to go to Jimmy here. He says, what teams will replace Florida State and Clemson if they do leave the ACC, like maybe a Memphis, a Boise State, or a Tulane?
Yeah, this isn't putting the cart before the horse. This is putting the cart 2 miles before the horse even gets out of the barn, Pete.
So speculating here.
Yes.
I like Memphis. I think Memphis, that deal with FedEx, I think really makes it attractive and kind of gives you the idea that Memphis could play with the big boys a little bit. And then Boise State's a good one. I think Tulane's really intriguing, right? No one's in New Orleans. If anyone ever goes all in and big in New Orleans, that could be really interesting. I'll give you a wild card one too, and this is just straight from football. Fresno State is like a football juggernaut, like year in, year out. Now, it's not USC and UCLA, and that will always be a problem. But I kind of like the idea of Fresno State because historically they have been good.
Yeah. Well, geography doesn't matter anymore.
No, it does not.
I mean, you got Stanford and Cal in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Pete, I do quickly, and this is something we've discussed multiple times. And again, I just feel like I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like this makes the most sense because I know the lawsuit. It's not like the ACC is suing ESPN and back and forth, right? It's Florida State. No. It's teams from the ACC are trying to sue ESPN to get out of the contract, right? Those are the two entities that are going against each other, or where is the ACC involved?
No. So Florida State and Clemson have both sued the ACC.
The ACC.
Saying like the grant of rights should not... There's a big battle about what they should pay if they leave the conference.
Yes.
And then on the flip side, the ACC has now sued Florida State and Clemson on the flip side of that. And in these court arguments we've heard, ESPN lawyers have been brought in to side with the ACC about how these contracts should not be made public because of trade secrets.
So do you feel like ESPN is on the side of the ACC fully, like against Florida State and Clemson? Like where I'm trying to see where the lines are drawn because, Pete, my question is, it would just make a whole hell of a lot more sense is if you were going to settle and like ESPN was involved in this with Florida State and ACC and the ACC and Clemson. If the ACC has a deal with ESPN and teams are disputing the contract between the media rights deal, the ACC and ESPN, if you were going to settle, it would make a whole hell of a lot more sense for Florida State or Clemson to go to another conference that at least has a half media rights deal with the ESPN, like the Big 12, or a full media rights deal with ESPN, like the SEC. I'm just not seeing the Big 10 move. I feel like that would be the hardest path, right?
So it's in the best interest of ESPN for the ACC to win this because it gives them more quality TV games, right? At the same time, ESPN has this mega deal with the SEC. So, I mean, if they were to somehow land in the SEC, I guess it'd be good for ESPN no matter how it shakes out. But if one of them decides to go to the Big Ten, like you don't want Florida State. I mean, Andy Staples just did the story. Like, are they a blue blood? Or are they not? Right? I'm sure you guys saw that. But like, Florida State is one of the biggest names in college football. The last thing you want to have happen with all this is they now just play on Fox and CBS.
That's my whole point. Like, if you're gonna bite this bullet, I would rather bite the bullet going to a place where at least our media company has the media rights deal. You don't want to just lose that fully. That's what I would think.
And let me just throw this in here. Like, we are talking about a lot of hypotheticals, but let's also be honest that the TV companies are pulling a ton of strings behind the scenes.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, those are your dark. Those your Palpatines in the dark cloaks, man. But y'all got anything else for Pete?
Yeah, I got a question here if you want me.
Right,
David S. What's up, David? Hashtag Ask Pete. How much do you like SMU's chances for long-term success in the ACC? The Dallas, Texas area has some of the best high school football in the country.
Big fan of the SMU's chances in the ACC. And the reason why I say that, it's all about money, man. And they get a ton of money in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And SMU's not taking that like tier 1 ACC revenue. They're going to take some, but not like the biggest chunk of it per se. And SMU like raised that in like 10 days and this past September. Like the money is flowing in for the Mustangs. And I like SMU's chances. The ACC is also kind of like a basketball conference a little bit. And I liked the move to go get Andy Enfield from USC. I think that kind of gives that guy a chance at like a rebirth almost and things like that. So I think SMU's headed in the right direction in the ACC.
Well, Pete, quickly, how much did Arch Manning get paid to flip his commitment from a non-EA participant to being in the game?
$50,000 to $60,000.
More than me.
Are you kidding me?
I got $50.
Y'all got paid?
So
doll hairs?
Yeah.
Can I jump in real quick on this one?
Go ahead.
Everyone's been like, oh my God, that's so much money for Arch Manning. Like, well, Eli was in the video. Arch Manning has only like tweeted like 4 times. That was like one of his 4 X posts. And the Quinn Ewers and Travis Hunters who were on the cover got like 6 figures. So I really don't think that is that much money. I don't think.
Well, I mean, he hadn't played a snap though. Like this is the backup quarterback. Yeah. Like what? I know what you're saying, Pete. I agree with you because his last name's Manning. But like no other backup quarterback backup player is getting that type of change.
I hear you.
Wow. Which we'll see, man. We'll see.
Do you feel played?
No. I mean, I'm just excited about the game.
Just don't say it was because you didn't want to be a distraction.
Yeah, that was funny. That was funny. It's like on Forgetting Sarah Marshall when he's trying to teach him how to surf, and he's like, "Go slower."
You're just boogie boarding.
Well, you got to do more than that. I mean, now you're just boogie boarding. But we're always boogie boarding, having a good time. Pete Nakos from On 3. Pete, tell everybody where they can find your magical work and your scoops. Got more scoops than a Baskin Robbins, son.
I'm at on3sports.com, and you can find me on X at Pete Nakos _.
Pete, you're the man. Be good out there. Hey, what's up, YouTube? Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on, and like the video. We really, really appreciate it.